of 17 ships and sailed back to the New World. And they sailed and explored the islands further, returned back to Spain, made another trip and another trip, and eventually Columbus actually died as a very poor man because the Queen never really came through with her promise of riches for discovering the New World.
So he was supposed to be paid each time he would go out?
He was supposed to get a percentage of all the wealth that he found in the New World. Unfortunately, he didn't really find any wealth. He found a lot of fruits, a lot of citrus, discovered hammocks.
And would he bring that stuff back, I guess, to Spain, to the Queen?
Brought it all back to Europe, to the Queen of Spain. And of course, she failed to see any real value in any of this stuff. So aside from the title of the Admiral of the Ocean Seas, he didn't really get any wealth to go along with it.
Wow.
Nobody's really entirely sure where Columbus is.
Okay.
They believe that he had a house in San Salvador and that sort of thing. There are about 3 or 4 islands down in the West Indies that claim to be his place of residence and that sort of thing.
Okay.
But nobody really knows for sure.
Where would he get money from to have something like this?
Ah, that's kind of an interesting story. He applied to the Queen for the ships to discover the New World. She, of course, didn't really have any interest in committing ships for Columbus, and in fact turned him down numerous times before the Minister of the Treasury finally pulled her aside and said, "My Queen, you have nothing to lose but to get rid of this crazy man who keeps bothering you with his ideas of sailing to a new world." And she says, "Well, fine, give him a ship and let him go." And so Columbus said, "Great, I've got my ship." And as it turns out, one of the other respected mariners of the era showed up and also brought 2 more ships. And that's how Columbus ended up with all 3 ships for the trip across.
Christopher Columbus, you said 4 journeys.
Mm-hmm.
Can you maybe tell us a little bit about what was he looking for?
Well, Columbus was actually trying to discover China.
China?
China, Asia.
Okay.
So
he was lost.
Well, in a manner of speaking, he was lost, yes.
Okay.
Columbus knew that he could get there by find the east by sailing west.
So this didn't work after all.
May have been using it upside down. Well, Columbus's only fault was that he misjudged the size of the planet.
Okay.
If you'd have taken the planet and made it about half the size that it was,
then
he would have been right on it.
Right on.
In fact, Columbus, I believe, passed away believing he had discovered the islands of Japan.
Wow, boys and girls, and I thought he only made the first journey in 1492. When we come back, find out if Columbus thought the world was flat or round. Do you want to see that? Do you believe? Is the earth flat or round?
Round.
And what do you think, Christopher Columbus? Do you think he believed the same thing that you believe?
I don't think so.
Okay, I say it looks pretty flat to me.
Oh.
What do you think? You said it's round?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you think the earth is round. Raise your hand if you think it is flat. Raise your hand if you think it is a triangle. Did Christopher Columbus think the world was flat or round?
Well, generally at that time, people had begun to believe that the world was round. Now, Columbus, of course, as a navigator, knew the world had to be round. It just simply made sense. It couldn't be.
And explain that, why that would have to make sense from a navigational standpoint.
Well, because if you follow the stars, which were what they used mostly for navigating, and the path of the sun, it became clear that everything revolved, and that had to be a ball. In order for it to revolve, it had to be round. And there was still some superstition in the day, of course, that said you were going to drop off the side of the earth. But for the most part, Columbus knew the world was round, and he set out to prove it, which is really what he was trying to do.
That's great.
Prove the world was round.
I remember watching Earl Flynn, one of my favorite actors, in some of these really great movies, and he's on these big, sailboats, and the guys are sword fighting and hanging on all this kind of stuff. Do you ever have to climb up the different masts and do stuff?
We do. In fact, I was up there yesterday.
Really?
Yes. We have to take the flagstaff down to get under some of the bridges around here, and I went up yesterday myself and put the flagstaff back up to the top of the mast.
I don't see any hooks or anything. How do you get up?
Well, I can show you.
Oh, I like to see that.
Let's get out of the room.
Okay.
We use what they call a bosun's chair and a block and tackle. We have lots of block and tackles on the ship. We actually have a chair that we can sit in, and we attach onto a harness and attach this block to ourselves, and we can actually raise ourselves up the mast with this line. And it goes all the way to the top.
Well, I want to see some.
And it's quite a ride.
To see some of that? Where's the seat? Is it possible to see that? So this is really great because this is what you guys would experience. I mean, you know, the weather, the rain, that's what we talked about.
This is it.
So you know, it could be nighttime, guys ready to sleep. Guess what?
Guess what?
Find a comfortable place.
Too bad. It's it's raining. And when it rains, we all get wet.
Okay. And I guess all this kind of stuff that tells us, I see all the different pulleys. This stuff for, how much weight are we talking about? How much would something like this weigh?
This ship weighs 84 tons.
84 tons.
84 tons.
And keep in mind, boys and girls, this is actually the smallest of
This is the smallest of the 3 ships, correct?
Okay, this is the smallest of the 3. Now, why would this be his favorite, do you think?
Well, he found out that this thing had actually uncanny sailing abilities. She was fast, maneuverable, and fairly shallow draft.
Huh.
She only draws 7 feet of water.
Okay.
Now, for such a big ship, 7 feet is not a lot.
So yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
On some of these different explorations, like I couldn't go that long without having my wife, my girlfriend or wife or somebody close by.
No, there was a very big superstition about women on ships. Women were not allowed on ships.
I'd have to sneak a girl on board.
They were bad luck. But once you set sail, there wasn't any place to pick up a girl.
Okay.
There wasn't any place at all.
Excuse me.
In fact, that's a lot of the legends behind mermaids and things, because these guys would see, some people speculate that they were manatees, others speculate that they were dolphins. And to see the dolphins at night when you're sailing here in the dark ocean, and you see the dolphins swimming under the water, it's an amazing thing. It's very eerie to see it.
That's interesting. Now, what is this right here?
This is the captain and first mate's hatch. Down below where we're standing here is the captain's quarters.
Okay.
There are 2 bunks, one on either side, and a small navigation table right in the center. The ceiling is 4 feet from the floor.
Wow.
So when we get down below, you really have to be bent over.
5'10", you're right.
I'm 5'10", and I go down there, and it's
the same height, right?
Same height as I am. And yes, in fact, it's very difficult to put your pants on down there.
Okay. That's interesting. Now, you said 27 people. 27 people. Everyone had a specific job.
Everybody had a specific task. Every sailor came on as a sailor. They had everything from coopers. They had religious people.
That's what I want to
yes.
The reason why I'm asking, I guess if they're so superstitious, I would think that they would have people healing everything if something went wrong, or praying for sun or wind, or so is that possible? Is that
indeed? There are many superstitions that go back with sailors, such as no whistling. It was believed that whistling caused a storm. You can maybe sometimes hear the phrase "whistle up a storm."
I've never heard Popeye whistle.
Right. Only on shore does
That's right,
Popeye whistle.
Sure.
Never on a boat do you whistle.
Wow! And that's why there's a storm every time I sail. I need to stop whistling. Stay tuned for some more Magic Marc show, and guess what? Hanging out with a Nina. Yeah! How would they pick the 27 people to be on this boat?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. A lot of people believe that they were convicts and criminals that were given their freedom to go aboard the journey. And in fact, that was on the table to give them amnesty if they signed up aboard. But the sailors, the true sailors that had signed up already, said if this is the case, we're not going. We're not sailing with a bunch of criminals. We're true blue sailors, and we'd like to be with sailors. And so that kind of stopped in a real big hurry. But when Mr. Pinzon, the second man who came aboard with the 2 ships, the Pinta and the Santa Maria, he led a great deal of credibility to the whole trip. And many sailors then signed on because he was a well-known merchant sailor.
So these guys would actually get paid? But if Columbus didn't receive his money from the Queen, how did the 26 or 25 other people get paid?
Well, sailors were usually pretty poor. They did sign on for
so it's more about
a maravetti was the coin of the day, and they would be entitled to certain percentage or a regular pay at the completion of the journey. And in fact, they probably did get paid.
So you're talking how long would a journey be? Are we talking a month, a week, 6 months, a year?
Depends on where you were going. If you were trying to get to China or Asia from Europe, it's a long sail all the way down the coast of Africa and back up around the other side. In fact, many ships were lost down around the Cape in southern Africa. And that's why they were trying to find a new route by sailing the other direction instead of going all the way around all those continents.
Okay.
The journey that Columbus took was about 9 months start to finish. It took roughly 3 months from Europe to get to the New World. They actually sailed to the Canary Islands and made some repairs in the Canary Islands and in fact changed the rigging of the ship to be a square sail rig because he was sailing downwind across the trade winds. And it was 33 days from the Canary Islands to the New World. And they explored the islands for about 3 months and then sailed back again for about another 3 months in their journey back home.
Any kids on board? Talk a little bit about how young could someone be?
Back then, most people didn't live as long as we do today. The average lifespan, as they say, was about 34, 35 years at that time.
So you could have somebody 15, 16 easily?
Easily. In fact, most sailors started at the age of 12 as cabin boys. And they would come aboard the ship and be the cabin boy for the captain and that sort of thing. And they would be given menial tasks, but very important tasks, such as turning the hourglass, which is how they kept time on the ship. They used hourglasses with sand.
What about for entertainment purposes? What are some of the things, I guess, musicians? Did they have a musician on board?
Didn't have a musician as such. Would not have been worth the weight to carry himself.
Storyteller, musician.
But most of the sailors would have chants and sing ditties, and they'd keep themselves busy with things.
So the sailors all had probably their own stories. They all had good stories.
Sailors have good stories.
Just like the fishermen.
Yeah.
Everybody has, oh yeah, I caught a 50-inch bass or whatever. So I guess sailors had some great stories.
Yes, they did. But all fishermen are liars, except for you and me. And I'm not so sure about you.
That's great. That's great. Well, we really appreciate all your time.
You're very welcome.
Very, very nice adventure. This is an unbelievable opportunity. Hey, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed it. The captain, Kyle, fantastic job.
Thank you.
Please, the Nina, if you get a chance at home, go on the computer, go to the library, look it up. Get some information about Christopher Columbus. She has like a very interesting person. Woo! Hey, boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed your trip on the Nina with me and maybe know a little bit more about Christopher Columbus. Guess what? Hang out with us because you know we like to have a good time. Did you have a good time on the Magic Marc Show? Yeah. We'll see you next week. Same magic time, same magic channel. Make some noise.